Hello guys, today I want to introduce you to a new component on my Livewire kit project, component number 41, 41st component, which is date time availability picker. And this came from idea that I received over email. I receive ideas in various ways on Twitter, email, YouTube comments, wherever, and sometimes I do pick the ideas to implement. And this is the email from a person whose example is about reservation of a limo, for example. But that could be applied to reservation of anything: hair salon, auto repair shop, whatever, doctor's appointment. And it's a pretty typical scenario. You choose the date, then it shows the available times, querying from the database what is available, and then you end up with the result of the time slot. So we implemented that in Livewire kit, and let's see how it works and see the code. In this video I will show you and discuss the code, but if you want to get the full component with demos, Tailwind and Bootstrap, and if you want to get all of the components, which is 41 components at the moment, the purchase price is $39 at the moment for everything. It's a one-time purchase, and you get the access to the repository with all of those components, including what I will launch in the future or updates to existing components. It's a one-time purchase, not a membership. Now let's take a look how this component works. First, the demo, then the code. So when you launch the page, this is the actual Livewire component. It's part of the form, and the result of that component is actually a field, the value of time slot. And when you pick a date, we use a pick a day date picker here. You pick a date, and then it refreshes the time slots, and then you click a specific time slot, and then you submit the form, and the result of that form is date and time, and then you can do whatever you want from the backend in Laravel. Now let's take a look at the code. And looking at the code, you may learn not only about Livewire, but some things about Carbon or date pickers and something like that. So let's take a look. In the blade file, so that's outside of Livewire, in your blade file, as a part of the typical form, you load Livewire component, date time availability. In that component, if we take a look at the blade of that component, input text field for the date, wire model to the date variable, and we will get to that in a minute. And then for each of the available times, you have two inputs, or in fact one input, radio button, which is hidden. So the actual time with the value of date and key of that time. And then you have label with class for that interval, which means whenever you click that label, that rectangle, it assigns the value to the input type radio, which is hidden. It's kind of HTML and CSS hack, so to speak. Input with ID and then label for that ID. Then for date picker, we use, as I said, pick a day from CDN. I have another Livewire component, by the way, on Livewire kit, one of the components. Let me scroll down. Yep, this one, date picker, pick a day. So how pick a day works, you can learn from that component if you purchase the whole suite of components. So I will not stop here, but basically you load the pick a day with the field of date, which corresponds to ID date here. And then important part, on select of the date, you set the date to the correct format using moment.js, another JavaScript library. As a result of that, we have the value of this ID date, which is in itself wire modeled to date. Now let's go to the Livewire component class and see what date is and how it works with other variables. So when that component loads, we have the mount method, kind of like a constructor, and then we assign date to today. And then there is a private method, not sure if it's private actually or public, get intervals and available times. It's protected, or it could be private. We reset the available times, and available times is actually an array. We fill that with hour and then true or false. So the keys of that array will be hour time slots, format hour and then AM or PM, and then is it available or not. To populate that array, we have Carbon intervals starting from the date 8 AM to 8 PM. Then we get the appointments from that date, and then for each of the intervals, we fill in the array with collection function. Does it contain the interval or not? And then we load that function of get intervals and available times each time the date is updated. So this function, updated date, we refresh the intervals, which in turn, if we get back to the blade, refreshes this for each. And that's basically it. On the render, we just load the blade. So nothing really too fancy here. What you need to know is how Pickaday works, how to parse the carbon values with periods, and how to tie it all together in the blade with stuff like label for, wire key, then ID date, and then this set. So a lot of small details. And you can get all the details with the source code instead of copy and pasting here from the screen. You can support my channel and my mission of working with Livewire and putting out new content by purchasing livewirekit.com all of the components. Or if you already purchased in the past, you should get the access to the repository where that component already exists. And if you have any new ideas for Livewire components, shoot in the comments below or email me directly povilas@laraveldaily.com and I may choose your idea for the new component. That's it for this time, and see you guys in other videos.